On a crowded flight, a millionaire's baby screamed relentlessly, disturbing everyone on board. No one could calm her, not the flight attendants, not even her desperate parents. Then, a poor black boy from the back row quietly stood up and did something so unexpected that the entire plane fell silent, and what followed shocked even the millionaire himself. The hum of the airplane engines filled the cabin as passengers settled into their seats, adjusting bags, buckling seatbelts, and preparing for the hours ahead. It was a first-class flight bound from Los Angeles to New York, and among the passengers was Charles Whitmore, a renowned millionaire whose name frequently appeared in magazines, newspapers, and business blogs. His towering figure and expensive tailored suit made him stand out, but what caught more attention was the small infant in his arms, his daughter, Amelia. Charles had boarded the plane hoping for a quiet, smooth journey with his little girl, but within moments of takeoff, Amelia's piercing cries began echoing through the cabin. No matter what Charles or his elegantly dressed wife, Catherine, tried, Amelia wailed inconsolably. The baby arched her back, her tiny fists clenched, her cries sharp and desperate. Catherine bounced her on her shoulder, whispered soothing words, tried a bottle, even sang softly, but nothing worked. Charles, usually the picture of calm and control in boardrooms, was visibly frustrated and embarrassed. Passengers nearby exchanged irritated glances, some covered their ears with pillows, others muttered under their breath. A businessman sighed loudly and said, "Can someone please quiet that baby? This is unbearable." Flight attendants hurried over, offering assistance, but Amelia rejected every attempt. The tension grew thicker by the minute. Charles's wealth and influence meant nothing in that moment, he was just another helpless father with a crying child. Then, as the minutes dragged painfully into an hour, something unexpected happened. From the very back of the plane, in the cramped economy section, a young black boy about 12 years old slowly rose from his seat. His clothes were simple and worn, a faded hoodie and sneakers that had clearly seen better days. He looked nervous, glancing at the disapproving eyes around him, but something in Amelia's cries seemed to draw him forward. Step by step, he made his way down the aisle toward the restless baby. People whispered, confused about what this boy could possibly do. Even Charles raised an eyebrow, skeptical. But when the boy finally stopped in front of the millionaire, he gently smiled and said in a soft, respectful voice, "Excuse me, sir, may I try?" Charles was taken aback. She's not going to calm down for anyone, son. We've tried everything," he muttered, exhaustion in his voice. Catherine looked hesitant, but the boy's eyes carried a quiet confidence that somehow broke through their doubts. "Please," he said simply. And before anyone could protest further, the poor boy extended his hands toward the baby. The passengers collectively held their breath, some amused, others doubtful, as the poor boy carefully reached for Amelia. Charles hesitated, torn between reluctance and desperation. With a tired sigh, he handed over his daughter. The moment Amelia was in the boy's arms, something remarkable happened. Her cries softened, then paused, as if curious about this stranger holding her. The boy cradled her gently, swaying slightly, and then began humming. It wasn't a nursery rhyme, nor any song the parents recognized, but a soulful, melodic tune that carried a warmth and depth far beyond the boy's years. The plane fell silent, every ear attuned to that quiet hum. Amelia's sobs turned into hiccups, then into calm, wide-eyed stares as she gazed up at him. Slowly, her eyelids fluttered, and within minutes, she was resting peacefully against his chest, breathing evenly. The stunned silence gave way to murmurs of disbelief. A woman nearby whispered, "I can't believe it." He calmed her down. The businessman who had complained earlier sat speechless, guilt flashing across his face. Catherine covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes, while Charles watched in awe. For the first time in that endless hour, he felt relief wash over him. How did you do that?" Charles asked, his voice trembling between curiosity and gratitude. The boy gave a shy smile. "I used to sing this to my little sister when she cried. She passed away last year." The words hung heavy in the air, carrying a weight no child should bear. Catherine gasped, her heart aching for the boy. Charles swallowed hard, feeling a knot form in his throat. Passengers shifted uncomfortably, the story piercing through their earlier annoyance. "I'm sorry for your loss," Catherine whispered, her voice thick with emotion. The boy nodded quietly, continuing to hum as Amelia remained nestled against him, perfectly calm. For the rest of the flight, he stayed by their side, rocking the baby gently whenever she stirred. Passengers who once rolled their eyes now stole admiring glances, some even smiling warmly at him. The flight attendants brought him a warm blanket and juice, treating him like a guest of honor. And Charles, who had always believed money could solve any problem, sat silently, humbled by this boy who had soothed his daughter when he could not. By the time the plane began its descent into New York, whispers had turned into admiration. The poor black boy who had risen from the back of the plane had done something no one expected. He had not only calmed a restless baby, but he had also quieted an entire plane, leaving everyone in awe of his gentle strength. When the plane finally landed, passengers erupted in polite applause, not for the flight itself, but for the boy who had brought peace to their journey. People patted him on the back, some even thanking him personally as they disembarked. Charles and Catherine, however, stayed behind, unwilling to let him slip away without learning more. "Wait," Charles said as the boy moved toward the exit. "What's your name, son?" The boy paused, his eyes lowering shyly. "Malik, sir." "Malik," Charles repeated, committing the name to memory. "Where are your parents?" Malik hesitated, then answered quietly, "It's just me and my grandma now. We don't have much. She saved up for my ticket because I wanted to visit my uncle in New York. She thought it might give me some hope." His honesty struck Charles like a blow. This boy, who had lost so much and had so little, had just given him and Catherine something priceless, peace for their child. Catherine reached into her purse, instinctively pulling out money, but Malik gently shook his head. "No, ma'am, I didn't do it for anything. I don't like to see babies cry. My sister, she used to cry a lot." His voice cracked, and Catherine felt her heart break all over again. Charles stared at Malik, deeply conflicted. All his life he had prided himself on being a provider, a problem solver, yet here was a child with nothing who had reminded him of the true meaning of humanity. "Malik," Charles said slowly, "how would you feel about visiting us? I'd like you to meet my family properly. You've done more for us than you realize." Malik looked shocked, unsure if the millionaire was serious. "Sir, I don't think I belong in your world." "Nonsense," Charles said firmly. "You belong anywhere your heart carries kindness. That's worth more than all the money in the world." Catherine placed a gentle hand on Malik's shoulder, smiling warmly. "Please, at least let us take you to dinner." Malik hesitated, then nodded. That evening, the boy who had flown in the back of the plane sat at a grand dining table in one of New York's finest restaurants, next to a millionaire and his wife, with Amelia asleep peacefully in her stroller. And as Charles watched Malik laugh shyly at Catherine's jokes and answer questions with humility, he knew something deep inside him had shifted forever. Days later, Charles could not stop thinking about Malik. He had his assistants track down the boy's grandmother, and what he learned only deepened his admiration. Malik's grandmother worked tirelessly as a cleaner, barely making enough to cover rent. Malik, despite his young age, often helped her with odd jobs to keep them afloat. Yet, despite hardship, he excelled in school, particularly in music. His teachers spoke of his extraordinary talent for composing and singing. Charles decided to act. One morning, he visited Malik's grandmother in her modest home. Sitting in the small, worn living room, he explained what had happened on the plane and how Malik had touched not just his family, but everyone on board. "Your grandson has a gift," Charles said earnestly, "and I want to help nurture it." The grandmother, overwhelmed with emotion, tried to protest, but Charles insisted. He offered to sponsor Malik's education, including music lessons, promising to ensure he had every opportunity to chase his dreams. Malik, standing nearby, was stunned. "Why would you do that for me?" he asked softly. Charles looked him in the eye. "Because you reminded me that money doesn't define worth, heart does. And you, Malik, have one of the greatest hearts I've ever seen." Tears welled in the grandmother's eyes as she clasped Charles's hands, whispering blessings. Months later, Malik stood on stage at a school recital, performing a song he had written himself, a song dedicated to his late sister. In the front row sat Charles, Catherine, and little Amelia, clapping proudly, their hearts full. The boy who once sat quietly in the back of the plane had become family to them, his kindness carving a place in their lives forever. The story of that flight spread, retold countless times by passengers who witnessed it. A millionaire's baby had cried endlessly on a plane, but it was a poor black boy's heart that brought peace, teaching everyone on board a timeless lesson. True wealth is not measured by money, but by the love and kindness we carry for one another. And as Malik's voice soared on that stage, powerful and pure, Even Charles, the man who once believed money could buy everything, understood at last that the most valuable things in life often come from those who have the least. This story proves that kindness knows no status, no race, no wealth, it only knows the heart. If a young boy with so little could change an entire plane with one act of love, imagine what you can do in your world today. Be the reason someone smiles, be the calm in someone's storm, and spread kindness wherever you go. If this story touched your heart, share it forward, because one act of kindness can ripple across countless lives.